You close the door, we can start. Are you comfortable enough?
Yes.
Okay, good. Great. Welcome in Continuum, and welcome to the first episode of Next. The first episode is called Untitled Generation. I'm Chico Ferretti, I'm the managing director of Continuum Milan. It's really nice to see a lot of people around, a lot of generation. We don't like labels, but we have one on you directly, with your generation. Consider that like a mix of a talk, that is what will happen in the next hour, and then a chat, in the sense that after that we get rid of the chair and we start, of course, to chat of the talk that we have. So that is a kind of liturgy for this evening. Why generation are important for us? Well, and why we want to talk with you and share what we know about generation. Because generation represents somehow the state of the art of humanity. And we at Continuum, we have a passion for humanity. We pioneered human-centered design starting 30 years ago, basically. And it's not only a passion, it's almost an obsession that became also an obsession for the future. So of course there is a direct relationship between generation and future, not because generation represents the future, but generation represents the platform on which we can understand the future. And that's the reason why we are starting generation, because we want to understand long-term changes, cycles, and if you rely on the change of a generation, if you as a designer, if you as a company rely on the changes of generation, of course, you can create long-term innovation. And it's important, of course, to mix the understanding of generation also with the seasonal changes that, of course, are the one that help you to make your innovation relevant in a particular moment. Let's remain in the time area, and this one is a classic scheme that designers use to have an overview in the sense of what we're talking about, and hopefully give you a sense of the different generation. And the way the generation just developed in a kind of Darwinism way. And what is fascinating, like in Darwinism, is that generations are not only impacting the previous one, the following one, but sometimes generation and traits just keep one generation and just return back and reappear two of the generation. That is really fascinating. That is one of the first things that is coming out from this slide, is definitely the relationship, the connection between a generation of almost 1 century ago, the silent generation, together with Gen D or Gen Z, there are many terminology here, which is the generation that we talk about today. And because the silent generation as Gen V was a generation that was grew up and born just right after, of course, a crisis, and so they both, the silent generation and Gen V, are kind of risk-averse kind of attitude. Having said that, it's also really interesting to know that there is a lot of confusion. That's why we have a lot of terminology. So hopefully today we just talk, and the team here will talk, and our guests will talk about the traits that are really relevant for generation. All the last interesting things on this slide is the fact that if for all this generation was a kind of obvious relationship between the previous one and the following one in terms of influence, this generation here, the Gen V, is the first generation that started to influence the generation before. So there is kind of inversion here. That is another particular and interesting trait of what we are going to talk about. Next slide, that is about why and how we work on generation is part of our next community in Continuum to remain innovative and became a consulting company. We founded almost a year ago a research community, internal research community that are somehow disconnected at the beginning with the client work that we do every day, but they help to influence, of course, the work that we do with our client. The way in which we do that, of course, in a continuing way is also kind of culture of today's chat. Is not a moment in which we want to teach you something. It's a moment in which we want to share you something. So we as Continuum are kind of down to earth, and we like sharing with you or receive for you any kind of comment you can have on what we are going to show you today. And because of that, you can also rely on two platforms that represent also the history of the work that we have done on the generation. One is Gen Z, and the other one is Gen Y. And you can use this online platform because it's kind of collection of the different interviews that we've done. And so you can go there, gather your own information, find out your own insight, and hopefully can inspire and ignite the work that you are doing for a new offering or new kind of client that I'm trying to attract. Let's get rid of the scheme. We talk about that we try to be kind of down to earth and practical and continuum. So let's give a face to this generation. The original idea was to create two kind of personas, but then we realized that the personas already exist in the sense that there are authors out there that were really good in defining these two characters that maybe you are familiar with. Are part of two series, famous series. One is Girls and the other one is Modern Family. If you are familiar with that, or even if you're not familiar, what is really interesting about them is that in one generation step, there is an incredible diversity, an incredible distance. It is not by chance that this line is black and white, because it's between Gen Y and Z is like night and day. And that's because of the technology and because of a lot of other things that we will see a bit deeper later. Just to give you some example, again, if we talk at behavioral level, that is usually the way we understand the user. We start from the behavior and the value more than from the kind of demographic division. Hannah is a dreamer, while Alex is pragmatic. Hannah is financially unstable, and Alex a worker. So it's really black and white. And it's fascinating because the distance between the two generations is basically only 16. And if we just add another level of understanding, or a cognitive level, it also shows the relevance of this generation in terms of business, because of course there are a huge number of the population, they have an incredible spending power, especially if you consider that they are still not in the maturity of purchasing power. Moving to the way in which we collect all this data, well, the team here, and that's why we are going to talk about that, because they are the researchers that work on that, with different kind of background, but of course they deeply understand and spend time with the Gen Z. We use a simple tool like Skype in a way to enter in the house of people. So it was a classic for us, qualitative research, ethnographic-based research, try to understand one-to-one, talking with people and see the place in which they live, the object that they use, try to understand what is life about and what the value are about. I didn't mention before, but the community in Continuum are also a way for Continuum to bond together. We have 5 offices, and you can see here that, of course, the research was done globally, at the global level. You see on the right side all the different cities and places that we touch. Again, so the result is that the insight is, of course, coming from the collection of all this chat and all this talk that we have. That is a final definition of Gen V, and again, when I read that for the first time, I thought about the Latin phrase, I think was some padre quisque fortuna, meaning that everyone is somehow the designer or the one who has under control his own life. And Gen V is a lot about that. It's a lot about being really pragmatic, being really self-aware, wonders at the same time, who, of course, somehow enjoy the journey that it takes to be decided. So it's a generation that, as we mentioned before, is similar to the silent generation, and is really focused in building the country to be really conscious about it. We don't talk about, let's say, the classic pillars of generation. I believe that if you're really one, of course, know a bit more about generation, but you definitely already know something about them, and that is the classic things that everybody says about generation. It's not that they are not important, but we consider them as a given. So the fact that digital natives, the beauty of technology, economic crisis related, and of course they are impressed with validation. We use that somehow as a kind of platform, but on the top of that you see that we dive into other more profound and exercise. To recap what we do today, is really, you are really lucky to be here today, in the sense that today is like the foundation for understanding the generation. That means that it's like the kind of door, the gate for them access to the content of the other two events that we host here in Continuum. The second one it will be the one about understanding how you can interact, engage generation. So it's like you engaging these people. And the third one, nonsense generation, is about how you can bring inside, if you have a company, if you have an office, how you can attract and work with genuality. Because not only will be today already can be one of your clients, but in the future will be part of your company. So you generate value, you generate innovation together with you. 3 events, and well, let's focus on the one today. We have basically 3 moments. Mine that usually is longer than usual, but that's me. Well, Continuum Talk is, I will just leave, of course, the deep presentation of the content to Alessandra and to Pietro. You will see hopefully a lot of engaging slides with animation and with example that we have done together with the Università del Piemonte Orientale. So thanks again for the collaboration. I believe there is people in the audience from the university. After that, we'll pass to the microphone. I'm sorry about that. We have to use also the gelato to Camillo Mattola, the marketing director of Lego. I'm really happy that we have Lego here because it's one of the companies that represent one of the best ways in which we remain relevant with different generation through the years. And then, not in the stage, not this beautiful and a huge stage, but in the corner there, we have a work that you can double check later on with the people, with the team who work on that. Is a work that again was supervised by the Continuum team and done with the team of the Politecnico, and is about biotic, which is part of the Carrefour Group, and is, of course, the work that they've done rely on the insight of understanding of gender. Social media, you're right. I hear a voice, no, a real voice. I mean, social media, and you can tell that I'm not I'm an old generation because I forgot about that. But this one, you have Twitter and hashtag for, of course, tagging and make some buzz on the social media. Take note of that, take a picture of that, do something, but don't forget, of course, to if you like what we are going to talk about, to just spread the word. Having said that, I've done. Thanks again and welcome again. I'm really happy that you believe more in the changing of generation than in the change of weather. So it's great to have you here, even with a rainy day. Alessandro. Okay, giusto. Questo lo spiego.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. So now I'm going to guide you a little bit through the context in which Gen Z is actually growing. So it's super interesting to know that Gen Z is the most multiracial generation ever. So it means that out of the population, 47% is multiracial, and usually, and this percentage are the representative ones, so biracial, 22% Hispanic, Afro-American, and Asian. And it's absolutely the same, it's reflected on the number of multiracial marriages that are happening. So if you go back and see like in 2000 how it was, now in 2010 it's almost double. And in 1 out of 7 marriages are between couples that are multiracial. So this is like, these are just a few numbers to give you like a little bit of context. This is the generation that is growing. If you think about US, with Obama, a biracial president, is growing, looking like at a lesbian daytime show, if you know like the Januaries, or it's growing with the thought that same-sex marriage is the right, and it's finally in Italy too. And it's the generation that is super tired of typical, boring, traditional talking. This generation is interested in political talking when it's about the new civil rights. So it's about how I have to build my family, how do I have to shape my gender, my identity, and even my sexuality. So here we have a couple of case studies, just examples. Bruce Jenner, you definitely know him. So he is an athlete who won the gold medal. And in 2015, in April, he declared himself like trans woman. So he said, okay, I've been like an athlete for all my life, I don't care anymore. This is how I really feel. And there was like a TV show that is broadcasted recently in Italy, I believe. It's called Kate. And that's a typical case of the context in which Gen Z is growing right now. And the other example is Wake Up Italy, so what happened in January, so the LGBT community have been like fighting in order to have the same sex marriage recognized in Italy. And another example, it's always coming from the US, but it's the first documentary in which Jazz Jennings, that's the first, let's say, teenager who has been documented to have dysphoria. So basically dysphoria is when you are born with the sex, with the gender, but then your body doesn't recognize what your body is. So their parents decided that instead of fighting this, they wanted to talk about this thing because it's very common, it's getting more and more common. And they have been like documenting her growth from when she was like 5 years old. So I'm going really like very up, from very up, down, narrowing it a little bit, like a funnel. And this is, if we talk about context, the family is a smaller context within a generation is growing. And I have been growing in a family that was typically nuclear. So it means that I was a nucleus that was founding my identity, my mom and my dad, and then it was me. And now it's completely changing because we're talking about modular families. So basically there's not just anymore a couple who is taking care of the kid, but more modules taking care of them. This is happening because if you think about how it's going, your job, the freelance economy, people don't have time to spend a full part of their life dedicated to kids. So having kids, so parenthood is just another project within the 1,000 projects they have in their life, and they're not willing to give up on what they have been conquering in the previous years. So what happens is basically that not just the module is taking care of the kids, but there are multiple arrangements that goes down from one parent kids, yes, or same-sex couples, and different arrangements. You will see the moms is not staying at home anymore, and dad sometimes is taking parental leave. So this is the context again in which Gen Z is growing. These are their parents, and you can guess that they are grown up being super keen in recognizing and welcoming diversity. So now and then, you will see some of these videos that are coming from the research that we have been doing. So we've been mixing like case studies that we found on the internet that other people have been mentioning, and some interviews we have been actually doing. The first video I want to show you is from Gangmin, so Korea, and she's 8 years old. The concept here we want to explain you about is called mini adults. And okay, let's see what she says, and then I'm going to tell you something more.
지갑에 있는 돈은 얼마인지는 잘 모르겠지만 10만 원은 넘어. 나중에 커서 필요한 거 살 거야. 왜냐하면 내가 어른 되면 더 쓸 것도 많아지기 때문에 먹을 거리도 사야 되고 뭐 공부하는 필기도구 같은 것도 사야 되고 가구들도 사야 되고 집도 사야 되고 그렇잖아. 그래서 살 게 많아. 그래서 내가 그렇게 모으는 거야. 20살 좀 넘어서? 모르겠어. 하여튼 그때쯤 쓸 것 같은데.
Right? So they are mini adults. Yeah. The family is growing. It was when I was a kid. normative and regulatory. So basically, I remember when I was supposed to go studying, they were saying, okay, you can decide between A, B, or C, 3 options, and I had to choose between the 3 of these. Well, these kids are grown up by families that are like more supportive, they are emotionally supportive, they believe that these kids have already like a personality, a character, they have needs, and they're willing to make them grow in order to respect what they already are. So no identity is preset, identity is like a path you have to take in order to build what you want to be. This, of course, brings a lot of expectation and anxiety on kids because they feel like the pressure they're having on their shoulder. But at the same time, it's super interesting because at this age they are much more aware, conscious about their future, what they want to do. We will talk about this in the next talk, but a lot of times we have been talking with guys that were saying, boys and girls that were saying, I really would love to be a tennis player, and I'm super good, and I'm playing a super good team. And we were like, okay, so you're gonna be a tennis player? As I would answer, right? But then they were saying, no, because being a tennis player, you have to stop playing when you're 45, something like that, and then what do you do with your life? You know? So it's a total different mindset. Yeah. So, these kids don't take whatever is considered like granted, whatever is preset, they don't care about it, they're just gonna take it and rebuild it. So definitely the first thing they can build, again, is their identity. Identity is very strongly defined by your gender. So if you think about genders, in my mind, there are 2 genders. That's the woman, circle, and boy, right? You will see in this case Eva, she's talking about a totally different concept, that is gender fluidity.
Io non so come si dice in italiano, ma io sono gender fluid, bisex. Per me la parola transessuale è un aggettivo che non serve neanche, perché se tu sei nata femmina ma ti senti come un maschio, non devi essere chiamato transessuale, devi essere solo chiamato maschio, perché la parola trans non ha senso. È come se vedi tipo ci sono tutti diversi colori di tipi di rane, e tu dici quella rana gialla, non è che gli dai un nome specifico per quella rana. Per le persone umane è così, tipo non devono essere chiamate transessuali come se sono tipo dei alieni, cioè sono umani, e se erano nati nel corpo sbagliato. Con i giorni mi sento femmina, alcune volte maschio, e mi metto un binder, che sarebbe una cosa che si mette qua nel petto che lo fa appiattire. O alcune volte mi sento come se non ho un sesso, che sono senza sesso.
So when we've been speaking with Eva, and I have to say that we weren't looking specifically for, because we knew it was a phenomenon, but we weren't looking specifically, it just happened. So I have to say that I remember that when Peter and myself were interviewing her, and we were saying, okay Eva, we know, someday you feel like a boy, someday you feel like a girl, but do you think one day you will stick to one gender? And she was like, no, why should I? And was like, why you shouldn't? And she was like, why should I define myself with gender? So it's a total, completely different mindset, because they are not feeling the pressure to put a label under what they are, what they feel like. And it's interesting to say, you will see this happening again afterwards, that they are crafting a new vocabulary related to gender. So all of a sudden we speak about gender fluid, so somebody is moving from one gender to the other one, or agender, so somebody who doesn't think gender can identify themselves. And this is definitely happening because of some models like Andrew Kajik or Justin Bieber, so somebody who is like not so strongly defined by the gender, and it's affecting something like Facebook. Facebook in some countries has 59 gender options you can choose from. And this concept is definitely affecting some industries. Think about the fashion one. So there are a couple of case studies here, like The Corner, that is by Hughes, and Agender, that is by Selfridges in London. And they are a concept store where you can go and buy agender clothes. But I think it's super interesting to understand that these trends, because there are trends at the moment, and traits, generational traits, they can be like a double-edged sword. So what happened? God said, okay, super cool. it's super cool to speak about a gender-aligned clothing. I'm gonna do it. They took basically their unisex line clothing and they called it ungendered. And there has been a lot of buzz, a lot of back talking on the internet about this that I've done. And then, of course, if this generation is growing and is believing in the possibility of moving from one gender to the other one without any problem, because it's normal, they believe in equality between genders, and it's like what they expected to happen. But sometimes when we were speaking with girls, they were saying, I'm feminist. And I have to say that it was the first time in my life that somebody was declaring themselves feminist so clear, so out loud. And some of them were referring to Emma Watson's speech because it's just right what it has to be. Women and boys and men have to be treated in the same way. And it's exactly what Mia is saying here. Let's see.
I think everyone should be a feminist because feminism is just wanting equality between the genders. And I think it's really just nothing to discuss there, in my opinion, because it's been proven so many times that men and women are equal intellectually, so why should there be a difference in salary and things like that? I think that's an important point that needs to be discussed more, and a lot of people are afraid of talking about it, so more people just need to start talking about it more.
Right, so easy. Again, how is this trade affecting the industry? So there are movements, like consumer movements, this one is called Let Toys Be Toys, that is a US consumer movement that is promoting, is fighting, is campaigning against gender inequality. So in this case, at Tesco, they had like a chemistry set that was labeled for boys, and then there was a kitchen set that of course was for girls, right? So they have been like campaigning against this because they want kids to be able to use whatever they want in order to develop their personality and character. But at the same time, there are some other companies like TinyPop, and it's a company that develops apps that have been doing actually the opposite. So they thought that actually inclusiveness was a better point rather than targeting only girls or boys. It was actually better to have both targets. And so they took like typical game, the Robot Factory, and instead of saying it's just for boys, girls don't have to care about it, they added like components that could appeal to girls. Or another game, this one, Tokai Hair Salon, that again, typically, hair salon is for girls. For my generation, is for girls. In this case, they have been like playing with characters that are so quirky that even boys like it. So we've been talking about gender. We have been talking about identity. Definitely, another thing that identifies, that helps like shaping your identity is your sexuality. So we're speaking about post-sexualism, because this generation is the first one that is saying out loud that having no interest or very little interest in sexual activity is absolutely fine. And again, it's nothing new. They created a new vocabulary. So they have a vocabulary to speak about how interested they are in sexual activities, and then they have another vocabulary to speak about how interested they are in romantic feelings. So they have like super weird names. I have this here. So they have like asexual, demisexual, reasexual, and it's all about tones of sexuality. While about romanticism, they have aromantic, pararomantic, heteroromantic, euroromantic, and it really depends on what you decide that you want to be romantic with. It might be even with objects. And this is the last thing that I'm gonna guide you through, and then I'm gonna leave the word to Pietro. So you definitely understood that this generation is not taking anything that is preset and is just building everything from scratch. So they learned the power of beauty acceptance. They love to embrace whatever you are, whoever you are, whatever journey you are taking, and they just like it. So here's an example of a girl who you will see here in the comments, but like many people are saying you are over 200 pounds, you shouldn't be posting pictures like this because you are too fat. And she's like, what she's saying, girls, wear whatever the hell you want. And she has this number of likes on Twitter, so it's like crazy. And then the people the Gen Z love are like references. They are passionate about. They're like having a lifestyle that we would say is typically no filter. So Lorde, it's the case. In this case, she was at the concert, and she was actually like this. So she had all the flaws on her face, as you can see. And somebody decided that it wasn't okay to have her picture like this, and then Photoshop it. And then she was saying like, I found these photos, 2 photos from today, one edited so that my skin is perfect, and one real. Remember, flaws are okay. So she has been like exposing herself too, to say to the Gen Z she was talking to that it's absolutely okay to be whatever you are. And the other reference I love is Demi Lovato. So, because again, she's posting pictures of her body, of how she's evolving, because she was a little bit chubby and now she's super fit. But the Gen Z, what we understood and what we're really passionate about Gen Z is that they don't care who you are, they're just going to embrace you with your personality, whatever point you are of your lifestyle. Okay, so now I'm going to leave the word to Pietro, that is going to introduce you a little bit more about the side of Gen Z, what they like, what they don't like, and their usage of technology.
So, everything we said so far is about how, let's say, Gen Z is so much self-aware. And being self-aware means that things are much more rooted into the deep. So while we were speaking with these guys, actually, a lot of times, one of the questions that we asked them was, what is your concept of beauty? Like, what makes something or somebody beautiful? And it's an increasing recurrent pattern that the answer was, yeah, beautiful is something that is about what you have inside. And it sounds rhetoric, but it's nothing at all when it comes to Gen Z. And a consequence of this is about how what you, before Alan was explaining how the no filter, there's this language that is considered no filter, so really being brutally honest and tell the truth of whatever is happening. And it's reflecting also, we're speaking about style here, so how people dress themselves or how they behave themselves. And basically, the result is that a lot of answers were like, I don't have any, preference in style, I don't follow any trend, I'm okay with basic bland things. And again, it was a recurrent answer through all the continents and the different people we've been speaking with, no matter where they came from. And that's why there's this is a word that has been around for a while, it's about normcore, so it's basically this idea of fitting in wherever you are, whenever you, in whatever situation. And again, you see how like big brands are riding these horses and these generational phenomena to then craft their offering. This reclam is about Gap, and it's basically showing how it doesn't really matter how you're clothes, but it's the way in which you behave and the way in which you treat yourself that stands out. And there's an interesting tendency while you're speaking with people, and especially with Gen Z, because you see that there's, on one side, there's if I think about when I was a teenager, there was this whole idea of tribe, you know? You belong to the punk, you belong to the disco ones, you belong to the alternatives. Nowadays, everything is flattened out, so it's really blended in. And it's the behavior, like a lot of people were defining themselves like, I'm crazy, I'm a bit strange. I mean, that's what was defining them, sort of the personal traits of the character, not the things that they were wearing. So on one side, there's this need of not standing out, because standing out would expose to judgment, and then it would cause anxiety. And on the other side, there's this idea of not wearing or not being identified with brands or style, because that would be too limited. So it would be caging yourself into a label that doesn't fit you. And let's hear what Ben tells about this.
I don't really like the new stuff that's coming out. It's not really nice. I mean, I'm fine with like something with like a white shirt, a white t-shirt with a kind of lumberjack shirt over it, but not buttoned up. I like that kind of style with jeans. I don't really like the modern stuff with tight jeans and brands. I don't really think that's nice, because you're just kind of a walking advertisement. I think lots of people my age like to show off brands, to say, oh, I'm rich enough to have all of these stuff. But I don't think it's necessary. I'd rather have my brand just like in my inside, on the inside of my shirt. And if anyone asks, oh, where'd you get that from? I say, oh, well, I got it from here. Like, so I think Nike, I think Superdry stuff, it has its brand on every that you can see in every feasible place, and it just doesn't make sense. You shouldn't have it. Yeah, we know it's a Superdry. We've seen enough people wearing Superdry clothes.
Yeah, and that is from UK. So think about the implications of all these. Like we are working for brands. We are in our mind, brands exist. We have been growing up with this idea. Think about whatever field you're working in and the implications of these refusal of brands. What can it bring to? Another interesting thing that is a consequence or is strictly related to that is something really interesting. So if you look at these statistics, they're basically depicting how for the first time in wrestling history, so in the past years, the usage of substances that are usually related to the fact of having fun or diversity of wasting yourself, how can you get it? So basically smoking, drinking, and taking drugs is decreasing. And there's two sides. So it's not completely a positive thing, because if you look closely at these data, you see that really young people on the other side is increasing the usage of these substances. But if you see, like, this time range is really from 12 years old to 25, so it's a really precise time span. But again, someone might think that it's not so fun anymore, so how are they having fun? But on the other side, I think that what Cecilia is going to tell us will more or less clarify what we
A me gasa la techno. A me piace la techno, mi piace andare a ballare techno. No, mi ricordo sempre questa cosa che quest'estate sono andata a Londra e c'era un festival strabello di techno, c'era la Ellen Allien, c'era Squillace, insomma c'era un sacco di gente famosa, c'erano Motor City Drum e tipo io e questo mio amico eravamo gli unici che non avevamo pippato e abbiamo 7 ore ballato e tutti gli altri che pippavano a noi davanti. Che le persone che mi stanno attorno non sono per niente persone trasgressive o che vanno a drogarsi e hanno un conflitto genitoriale per cui debbano drogarsi. Sarà che non abbiamo 15 anni, quindi magari è un po', diciamo, adesso sono più quelli più piccoli che tendono a rompere le righe, diciamo. Da quando ci sono i social, Snapchat, queste cagate qua, alle medie, noi, quella che aveva fatto sesso per la prima volta, l'unica, noi l'avevamo puntata. Adesso è il contrario, se non fai sesso alle medie, che c'hai 12 anni, 13 anni, sei sfigato. Quindi questo, cioè, nel senso, loro sei trasgressivo se fai sesso.
So again, Alessandra was telling us how they are mini adults, and she's 19, and she said, we're not 15 anymore, so it sounds kind of fun at the same time. But you see the two sides, right? So there, on one side, there's these, rebel and taking drugs, smoking, alcohol. I guess that in a way is a way to explore and own your journey and find sides of yourself that are different. And again, this generation is much self-aware and self-focused. So the exploration, as Cecilia is explaining, and more or less looking at different statistics you find is happening on different sides. So maybe exploration of identity, sexual related. And on the other side, there's no time to lose. So it's not efficient to get stoned and not be able to control yourself, because then you diverse from your objective with your professional career, understanding yourself. So it's simply not efficient to take drugs and be a rebel. So you'd better don't do it and go on and follow your challenge. A different or a second side or of two things mainly. So this focus on yourself and finding yourself, and something that is, you'll see that in the next events, that is mainly and that is something that we would like you to bring home. Kiko said at the beginning that one of the characteristics of the generation is that they are digital natives. And this is the key, because these kids are born when in an age in which being connected and technology is the standard. So they have not been witnessing the passage between cell phones, smartphones. They're born with internet, they're born with information, they're born with knowledge, and that's not a question. And this has consequences on different aspects of our life. Let's see what Jake tells us.
Well, I went to a Solomon Chapter, which was a Hebrew school, before I moved to the public school. It was not the right school for me. I had like a hunch, and I was like shaking, and I hated my life. I would come home every day and start crying, and I actually thought about killing myself a few times. I don't know. It was. I think it was the fact that there was just like no freedom at all, and it was just like boring. It was like the school in the movies, you know, where the teachers just drone on, and there's nothing fun. Then I left that school and went to the therapist, and she taught me to be really mindful and helped me to come over some of my anxieties. Yeah, I really like to overcome my challenge, like the challenges that ruin like who I am, sort of. Well, with my therapist, the thing is I can like say anything I want, and I won't really like get in trouble, and like I don't have to be scared that like my little brother will overhear and be like, "Ha, I'm gonna tell all my friends now."
Yeah.
Because I don't trust him at all with this kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
like, as long as I know that I'm not gonna be like made fun of, or it's just like a safe atmosphere, then yeah, I don't really care.
Are your friends going to the summer camp as well?
No, I specifically chose a camp that wasn't where my friends were. I don't know. I just like am not very social with like other kids. That's why I'm going to camp without my friends to work on my social skills, because like I've been mindful of how I'm not very social at school.
Again, so everything that takes you far from your challenge, you see in the next event we'll speak more about that, but these people is used to work on challenge. So they set a personal challenge, their environment, the school in which they are, their work environment will be set on challenge. So they're how do you say, they're used to thinking like, I reached the objective, let's move on to the further one. And you see that everything that is distracting you or is making the path more difficult has to be solved in some way. And the fact of, Jake was speaking about mindfulness. Mindfulness is something that is basically a tool that is being adopted and promoted more and more. And again, it's a tool that helps people and helps Z, so Gen Z are totally embracing this thing in focusing more. If you think about technology once more, Gen Z is dealing every day with 5 different screens, is the generation of the multitasking activities, so they really need to focus their attentions in order to win the challenge and go on with their objective. These are 2 case studies of a retail chain, again, Selfridges in London, that established and set up a whole store, a whole floor of their store to promote quietness and calmness. So they're partnering with this company that is called Space, that is developing apps for mindfulness on the smartphone. And they were basically engaging people into really short goal activities, like observing the balls, to calm down and enjoy the calmness and the quietness, of course, shop better. But again, the idea is that this is another example of an association that is promoting free online tools and challenges for people to adopt to increase, again, self-confidence, concentration, and focusing on different things. This whole thing is called body plus mind, because once again, the whole idea of health and wellness and how one side being beautiful again is related to the connection and the awareness and the consciousness that this generation has about how, if you want to feel well, you want to control and be vibrant not only from the outside, so you're not sick. You don't cure you're sick, but you want to be well inside to then be well outside. Technology, again, is shaping all the aspects of life for Gen Z. Let's see how technology is impacting the conception of food and what's natural for Z. Again, Ben from UK.
I like prosciutto, but I don't like spam. It's just not. This texture is slightly weird, and it just doesn't taste right. It tastes artificial. Prosciutto is really nice though. I like things that are natural. Food-wise, I don't think anything that's made in a factory, apart from, let's say, pizza. Any pizza's okay, but anything that's made in a factory that's meant to be good, like, for example, Iceland stuff. We have a shop called Iceland in our country, and basically its foods are filled with chemicals, but they look nice and they taste nice, but they're not good for you. I'd rather have something natural than something that looks good and tastes good, but is artificial. I'd rather have something natural. Like, when I mean natural, I don't mean completely natural, because you have these genetically modified tomatoes which make them bigger, called bull tomatoes, and I don't actually mind them. I think we should use genetics to make things nicer and bigger, but I don't think we should make things we don't add chemicals. If I ate a bull tomato compared to a normal sized, untouched, ungenetically modified tomato, farmed in the same place, treated the same way, probably have the bull tomato because it's sweeter in the mouth and it's natural, apart from the genetics. It's not adding chemicals, it's kind of just changing the DNA to make them nicer.
Okay, you see, I mean, this is an example. We have been running projects, different projects about food and beverages, and it is a recurrent pattern. So I guess a few of you will have some complaints about genetically modified food. Not Z. So genetically modified food is completely okay because it's made of technology. So it's natural. Technology is natural for them. They're going with that. It's natural for them. Once again, different mindset brings to completely new behaviors. So for the first time in, again, recent history, it's not that hard to avoid these people going to fast food and eating sugary foods. We've been hearing a lot of kids against sugar, and we have been witnessing a lot of companies and solutions oriented to kids in terms of food. Very quick example, this is a super junior chef that started when he was just 13 in the US, set it up a high-tech kitchen in his bedroom, and now he's running a chain of restaurants and he's 17 years old. This is a menu that was crafted by kids, for kids, and was a kind of successful initiative that the Hyatt Hospitality Hotels round out. The result is that food is becoming some kind of social currency for Gen Z. So if you think about what it was music, video games for previous generations, books, now food is one argument of speaking and is really common to be into the lives of Gen Z. And food and beverages are actually currently the main expense. So Z are spending most of their money on food and beverages. Technology, we have been speaking about it. We're saying that they're totally fine with that, but they're also aware that technology has some kind of implications.
Io noto che magari sto molto più spesso al computer o comunque al cellulare che in giro in un parco, per esempio. È un sacco che non vado solo con le amiche, ma nel senso in un parco propriamente in mezzo alla natura non ci vado da un sacco. Ma comunque anche uscire, nel senso a volte la maggior parte del tempo parliamo sul telefono, comunque su Facebook e ci vediamo molto meno. Cioè è più facile comunicare ma ci vediamo meno. Beh, la tecnologia aiuta, però nel senso anche parlare con gli altri o vederli direi che è molto meglio che star lì a chattare o che... Cioè spero, poi non so se avete mai visto quel film, quello del robottino, Wall-E, che alla fine ci sono gli umani seduti, sono tutti grassi seduti su sedie che non si guardano neanche, hanno uno schermo davanti e non camminano neanche, stanno sempre su queste sedie che li portano in giro. Spero che non succeda cosa del genere.
So Gen Z is the first generation born with technology. but at the same time, they are the first human trials or the effects of technology. So in the next talk, we'll speak more about the implications of technology in everyday life. I think this is kind of fun. This is the needs, basic needs pyramid from the most physiological to the top one. This is actually the standard for Gen Zs. There's this new, again, vocabulary term that is called nomophobia, that is depicting the fact, the stress and the anxiety that these people feel when they get disconnected, so they're forced not to be disconnected. And again, if you think about like smartphones for kids today are kind of a gadget, but think about what they will become when they will get into adult life. So there's this saying about a smartphone getting from a gadget to an elephant in the room. And I guess that is something that we are seeing every day also when we are meeting people, we are meeting clients, and there's people looking at the smartphone. So in a way, again, how they will behave and how will they solve this question will influence all of us. Last topic is about them being aware of themselves, we've been saying, but they're also the first generation that is very much aware of the fact that we live in a closed system, we live in a world, and definitely throughout our interviews we found out that environmental change we're experiencing, so it's kind of easy to guess, but is on top of their minds. For this reason, even though Gen Z, we have been saying, are very much focused on themselves, they're also very much aware of the importance of the consequences.
Very interesting insight. So I'm afraid I cannot use and cover all of them. We, as Lego, we are covering just a lower target group of kids. So when we arrive until 14, it's already enough for us. But anyway, we have to follow the same and to stick to the same challenge, which is how to stay relevant with our target group. And that's the 1 million question, which I'm afraid I will not give an answer. At least I will give some inspiration or some example on how we approach and what we think is relevant, but how to be relevant for kids, which change every day, every year. That's not easy. So, first of all, I would start with a strange word, which is cronky-wonky. Means nothing to me. Actually, I was not happy when my guys invented it, because it was also difficult to memorize, and I'm not able to write and to spell it. But I will come back at the end of that, so you will stay with your curiosity on what's that. But it's the key of what we reached until today on how to stay relevant to kids. So, just before starting as an introduction, you think that everything started with this brick, and actually it's not true. Everything started with this family, the Christiansen family, and they were carpenters. And they didn't produce toys at the beginning, they were wood furniture makers. And by chance, just because sometimes they had spare wood, and in order not to waste it, they started to reuse it. We speak about the Genovese guys, or the Scottish guys, so stereotypes. So we have also the Danish guys. And the first game they produced was not Lego. So the Lego we know now, it was this duck, this wooden duck. But in order to stay pertinent with the theme, I think it's relevant to know a little bit the story of Lego, which is a story of continuous change, in order either to survive or to solve problems, but also to stay relevant. And there is a common denominator in that. So that was the old factory, house and factory, which they were forced to rebuild because of a big fire. And so they rebuilt it, changing the material so it's not wood, these bricks, but exactly the same shape. This is a common denominator of the Lego evolution. So they, from the wood, they decided to pass to to move to bricks. So sorry, to the plastic. But actually, you don't know, the first brick was in wood, and it is still compatible with this brick. So yes, there are still some bricks, some wooden bricks in the world, and so they move from wood to bricks, but the bricks have the same shape, or actually they evolved, they improved, but they are almost the same. They are all compatible. So the first bricks produced in 1932 is still assemblable with the new bricks. Think about other products that you change your mobile, but the alimentator is not working, the battery and so on. So that is a way to evolve but remaining the same. Also the brand evolved but always remained the Lego since the beginning. The way of focusing on product was toy. No, it was about taking care of kids. So the duck was something, some answer on how to take care about the kids' entertainment. The bricks were about an evolution of that. And now we will go to the digital, but it will be anyway the same direction and the same aim. Because what remains and remains steady in our essence of Lego is inspire and develop the builders of tomorrow. Because we really think that if kids play and grow with the right play experience, they will be better adults tomorrow, so better than us. And again, there is the motto, which is only the best is good enough, which is a dumb for us, because we are never satisfied. So, in order to be more consistent with what presented today, I try to select some pillars which we use in order to stay relevant for kids. And the first one is be yourself. So evolve, but don't change. You have to improve, but remain yourself. Think about social experience. So not self-experience, as we see that later. Expand the experience 360 degrees and test and learn attitude. These are the four pillars around which we build our activity now. Be yourself. Again, I showed you before from the house and so on, we evolved. We would like to remain the same company, but better, not change, not be different from the beginning. So we continue to build stuff, plastic stuff now, but it might be a different material in future, and take care about the children play experience, which is the most relevant fact for us. And in order to give you the feeling of what's mission,
a Lego brick isn't very big. It can be held in the tiniest of hands, tossed with the flick of a finger, or be gobbled up by a nearby seat cushion. And yet, this tiny little brick is also the size of galaxies far, far away. It is the beginning of an epic story, never told the same way twice. It is a hero and a villain, an army and a dance troupe. It springs to life with a single click, or a well-timed squint, and becomes something bigger. No, not T-Rex big or even skyscraper big. We're talking really big, like imagination and pride, love and happiness. Come to think of it, a Lego brick is a lot like a little kid. Both should never be underestimated, because both are only the beginning and each is made of infinite potential. Maybe a Lego brick is pretty big after all. Lego, the start of something good.
So we evolved, but we always try to remain the same. The bricks is always the brick. And here other, how do you call it? Label?
Pillars.
Pillars. So I realized that I show you some pillars. Some pillars have been shown to you today, but some of these pillars will be shown to you in the next days. So just I give a little anticipation to it. So the second pillar is not to be self-referenced, but just to involve others. So that is from me to we. And the success is for sure is better if you do it with other people and with other boys, but not only boys. And here I have another video just to show that Lego was maybe once a toy, an individual playing toy, and can be more, and not only with kids.
We are a team bound by blood, Nan's knitwear, and our own imagination. A team that shares our resources and pools our talent, where we each bring something different to the table. We don't see eye to eye on everything, like bedtimes and Brussels sprouts. But when we're in the game, we're in the zone, because the things we build together live forever. We conceive the inconceivable, bridge the unbridgeable. And when we've built as far as we can fathom, I see a guy who will always go that extra brick. With me, let's build.
So it's important to connect people, not only kids to kids, but also different generations. And we think we succeed in that. Another pillar is create a generation at 360 degrees. Because kids have a different vision of the world. They don't create segmentations, they have a sort of fluidity, continuity. So it's important to tackle all we call it touch points, because a kid looking for an experience might use the computer, might use the mobile, might use a pad or whatever, looking at contents in the television. And if a kid don't find what is looking for, they don't complain. They just change their search and go elsewhere. They look for simplicity, what it's easier for them. And if you are not able to cover all touch points, you just lose them, because they will not look for you. And that is another important content. And generate so a continuity experience. And here I would like to show another video showing how we connected our last launch some months ago, where in this product there is a continuity between the physical product, but also let's say digital electronic products, and also the possibility to interact through the net.
Thank you for tuning in. In the next few minutes, we'd like to focus on our new Lego Big Bang. Its mission for 2016, to grow our business by adding amazing innovation and newness to our portfolio. Based on past learnings and extensive insights, we bring forward a whole new Lego IP.
Nexo Knights is a high-tech comedy action adventure unlike anything you have ever seen. In this future-forward Knights world, the King's crazy jester has decided that he wants to be good at being bad, and now he attacks the kingdom. It's up to a small band of brave young knights to stop him. They are futuristic Nexo Knights. And thanks to this guy, Digital Wizard Murloc 2.0, they can download incredible digimagical Nexo powers to their shields and weapons. Also, they have all kinds of cool high-tech gadgets and vehicles for their quests, like this rolling castle.
Thanks, Tommy. This amazing universe is how a nice thing would look like way into the future. We've added a high-tech edge to make these models truly unique and giving them extra power for the battle against history. This is the Fortress, a high-tech moving fortress the Nexo Knights used to roll into battle. Loaded with tech weapons, open it up to reveal classic crafting values inside. All products have shields decorated with unique Nexo powers, like Ultimate Clay here. When powered up, it gets cool, ultimate tech weapons.
And it's exactly these Nexo powers that connect the models with the Nexo Knights game. You can collect and scan more than 100 Nexo powers. You can find them everywhere, like in the game, in the TV show, and in the store. And of course, on the toys themselves, which drives collectability even more. This is what makes Nexo Knights so special. Basically, we've created a link between the physical world and the virtual game.
This is a new way to play. This is Nexo Knights.
So you see, it's just about creating a story, a continuous story, so kids can play with our plastic bricks, but also continue the game through the iPad, through the television, and so on, and go back. And this is a way to stay relevant to them. But there is also the last pillar, which is really important, especially in the digital world, where we are facing always new frontiers. No one is expert in this field. So the philosophy or the approach of test and learn is really important. And the focus will be not in failing, because the failure will be a sort of necessity. So the important is not to fail, but just to make this fail be an investment rather than something bad, and build on it. So simulcant and failure learning are two pillars which will be more and more relevant in the future. And related to that, I would like to present some game which is not yet on the Italian market, will be in September. And it is based on a big failure we did in the past. The failure we did in the past was to create a sort of video game, the so-called MMOG, the multiplayer games in internet, like, for example, World of Warcraft or something like that. And the name of that product was the Lego Universe. So we did it for 1 year with a disaster in terms of business, but that was an investment for us and was a learning. So 5 years later, there was this, you'll see a video now, which is a new frontier where you could even impact the digital world using the physical world.
That seems not normal. Hi, a giant. Probably a bad guy. This is adorable. Okay, calm down. Hey, stop zapping me with your little wizard stick. It's cold stuff. You look
we call a truce and you tell me what's going on?
Perhaps that would be the wisest course of action.
Okay, so here's the deal. There's this real bad dude, wears a helmet. He's been tearing rifts between all the Lego worlds.
Wow. I only understood about half of that, but it sounds pretty bad. And he's got our friends.
So we must return to our quest to save them. To the gateway!
Still working out the kinks for the remote.
We need your help rebuilding our vehicle stretch.
No problem.
Not bad. Well, nice meeting you, whatever your name is.
Many thanks for your assistance, Goodly Giant.
Good luck. I think I just swallowed a batarang.
So I think it's our ultimate development of toys where you can build, using the bricks, you can build some components of the video games and introduce them in the video games. So creating your own scenario and your own heroes, basically. You'll see from September on. I hope it will be a success. In other countries, it is actually. So now we arrived because you might be curious about the Cronky Onesie. And the Cronky Onesie is a word that until a few months ago was not existing, so was not present in Facebook, in Wikipedia, whatever. But it's a word or a philosophy which realized what was our last way to engage kids. So in the past we create contents, we told big stuff for kids which could be relevant for kids, and we also tried to convince them or to communicate it to them and convince them that was relevant. And with this project, which was done together with Facebook last year, at the end of last year, we started a new era where the content is not us. Let's see this short video.
Then that type of word, I think it's like a kissing spaceship und kein Leben auf dem Mond oder Carver. It'll be mostly white and it's gonna be big and fat. Ein Flugmodell oder it's like half dog, half bunny. And then let's have a green light edge for like a frame. And his glasses are gonna have cute little ice cream cones. And una máquina. And una casa máquina. And then try to feel the bricks. And then he makes it. Well, it's just so I can get my ideas out and then I can see what they actually look like. This is my cookie cookie with the meal cookie wonky. This is my cranky wonky. Cranky wonky.
The best way to convince people, to involve people, in this case kids, in your brand is just to give them a reason to create the brand and to live it in the way they want. So we stimulated them, we gave them some brick. We also used the power of Facebook in order to give people, to give GRPs to their creations. And they are spontaneous, they are proud because what they created was done by them and for them. So they told the Lego story with our products, with our bricks, but their way. And the results were amazing in terms of people reaction in the net and in the Lego community. And I think this is one direction for the future. We cannot do everything alone. We have to use our community. This is about co-generation. And that was the way we are doing the road we are pushing now to stay relevant for kids. Thanks.